This album has been my way of making a diorama of, life experiences that I'm trying to look on from different angles, and the feelings that are embedded in that, and trying not to get lost in that, but trying to, this is still, I'm going to hold this up. I'm going to look at it with, as neutral eyes as I can, to accept that, things have happened, and knowing that things have happened can make me as a person more ready to kind of more ready to accept a lot of stuff, to be able to move on, and to be able to become, I don't know if you ever become whole, but at least you get to grow.
Headbangers.
Hi, welcome back to the Headbangers podcast, where your hosts Nathan and Brad. Here today we're joined by Kim from Mall. How are you doing, man, to start off with?
I'm doing all right. Thank you.
Good to hear. So one that we always like to kick off the podcast is just, what is your funniest or worst tour stories? Like, what's the one thing that when you've been on tour that just sticks out to you the most in your mind?
See, I should have prepared that. I don't really recall that much. Oh yeah, it's usually something with somebody forgetting their passport somewhere.
Everyone's worst nightmare.
When you go to when you do fly-in shows, we all end up in in some accidents happen. And not to throw Ken under the bus, but I know that my drummer, he's a very focused guy and always packs light. But sometimes we did this one show, I think it was at Arctangent. We flew in really, really late, arrived the day before we had to play, and he packed so light that he only had his snare drum with him, and that snare drum went underneath the plane, and I think some at the staff said, that has to go down, but his passport was with that snare drum.
Oh no.
And so he went to customs, and I just remember standing at the end of where people were seeking asylum. You could see that lovely white fella standing at the end of the line, looking really, really scared. Like, it's not here, it's gone. Like, and I went to security, and I was like, that guy, he doesn't have a passport. I have it here. It's right here.
Oh man.
Always
happens to someone.
Yeah, we managed to forget his symbols as well on the tram line, actually. It was a mess. But we went and we played, and I think we borrowed some of Alceste's gear. Some of their gear was also missing from their plane from France. So there was enough accidents to go around.
Yeah, of course. God, it's just a mess. Imagine, flying's stressful enough. Just if you're just going on holidays, never mind having to take equipment, and then obviously the passport is always the one that is a difficult one. Even though you pack everything else, it seems to be the one thing I forget personally sometimes. Yeah, what a pain.
He's gonna hear for it for ages now. So
yeah, they'll live it down.
Yeah. I literally never not left the UK since 2006. So
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
my passport's been out of date since 2017.
That's mad.
And I've never got it renewed.
Yeah,
It's just because I've never been able to afford it. I've never been able to afford to go on a holiday or anything like that.
Yeah,
because I was on apprenticeship wage, and then when I finally got put up to full wage and everything like that, I waited ages. I bought a bunch of shit that I've been waiting to buy, whilst being on apprenticeship wage, and then COVID hit, and I'm like, There's no point buying it yet.
How old are you?
23.
23. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's it's one of those things.
You can still manage to get your legs on the road somewhere. I'm sure you'll manage.
Yeah, you gotta do it.
Definitely. So
go see some festivals in
yeah,
yes,
Europe.
that needs to be done. It needs to be done.
Yeah, like I was saying to Brad, like I really want to go to France and go down to a couple festivals down there.
Hellfest.
Yeah, definitely Hellfest, because it feels like they just called every band and everyone like yes.
I think I have 2 on my bucket list. Like Brutal Assault is definitely one of them. I don't know if you've seen the scenery down there.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, I've heard
really
about Brutal Assault quite a few times.
The freaking castle, man.
What's more metal than that, you know?
Yeah, pure vampiric Transylvania vibes going on there. And yeah, that one is on my bucket list. And I think Roadburn.
Definitely.
Yeah,
because I feel like obviously we've got like a couple in the UK, but I feel like I look at like all the other European like lineups and like festivals, I'm like, that's so much better than what we get. Come on, I'm like, how much is a ticket?
Well, you're not far off with like Damnation is. I think that has been one of our favorite festivals.
I'm off next week, actually.
Yeah, really?
This week, sorry. This week on Saturday. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Right.
Yeah, I'll have a good time. They're still doing it on the university, right?
The last year, yeah. So this is the last year that it's going to be at the Leeds University. Next year, they're moving it to Manchester.
Yeah, I heard it was quite an upgrade.
Yeah. Well, I was meant to go this year, but my girlfriend reminded me we had a wedding to go to on the same day. I was like, shit, I double booked. Yeah. So I'm off to the wedding instead. So I'm kind of excited. No, I ain't had a chance to dress up in a suit in a while, so I'm like kind of excited for it.
I'm quite seeing carcass there.
Well, that's the thing. You haven't had to dress up for ages, or unless at least the top half of your body when you're doing video.
Oh yeah. When I'm doing like work calls where I have to be like dressed up well fancy, I like it's literally just like from the neck down, like shirt and a tie. The rest, it's like pajama bottoms, mate. That's all you're getting. That's all you're seeing.
Yeah, no one's gonna know.
Yeah, I'm gonna return to my Cheetos in a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of want to obviously jump into the new releases and everything like that. I've got to say, it's genuinely incredible.
Yeah, blown away.
I loved it all the way throughout. Kind of want to jump into like the writing process behind the new releases, and how long did it take? Like what was the writing process like? What was the creative sort of thought process when making the album?
Well, at least the recording part that actually was pretty hard hit by COVID. So we had to hit the studio at the Ant Farm Studios with Two Madsen at separate slots, intervals, like drums first, and then he got home, and then the other ones came. The guitarist went, and I went afterwards. So we didn't actually get to hear like the whole thing like really until I think when all the vocal parts were recorded, and it was kind of exciting. Like I think he was the one trying to keep track of the overall sound, and then Nikolai, our main guitarist, like they coordinated like a lot. But Holger, our bassist, and Nikolai, they both became parents during COVID. So during the second lockdown, like their girlfriends and fiancés were like really pregnant. So it was just we were really careful not to get too many people in the same place.
Yeah, of course.
And like I think I've mentioned in more interviews, like it really felt like a specific meme that I saw with this cat typing away, and then there's explosions going on in the background, like just writing my album while the the world as we know it is perishing. So
Oh yeah.
I think that fear has, I don't know if it's, I think what's colored our writing process, at least for my part with the lyrics, has been a lot of escapism, like introspection.
Yeah.
You know, what do you do with your life? What, you know, when we are done with this album, you know, what's gonna come out of it?
Yeah.
And we were also at a pretty, I think, it was just a crazy year, like with Holy Roar blowing up or imploding, and new record deals, and you know, and things happening in our personal lives. It was really a match. I think everything felt a bit critical, and took kind of a toll. Not for the worse, actually. I think it made us kind of, you know, move to the back end of the bus and really like, okay, we have to do this. Like, if we're gonna do something, we're gonna do it focused, and it's really go big or go home.
Of course, yeah. Well, it sounds like you directed all that kind of energy and all the kind of emotions that you were going through into the album. And big thank you to Nuclear Blast for letting us listen to that early, because, you know, it was an absolute treat. I haven't heard something in metal that interesting in such a long time. I wanted to ask, you know, I appreciate that the album is like, it's elegant, brutal, melodic. What influenced like the musicianship when you were doing this? Because it feels like there's a lot of influences that outside of metal coming into it, at least from the way that all the songs are structured and certain passages in there. It's just a very interesting listen. So I wanted to find out, where did all this avant-garde style come from?
Very, very much. Like this is Nikolai's brain, essentially. Like he doesn't come from metal. He comes from noise rock, and he comes from, you know, he grew up with bands like Sonic Youth, and you know, huge fans of Kevin Shields, and a lot of the alternative rock music throughout the 90s and 80s, and like obviously shoegaze. And I know Ken and him, when they started, you know, developing the sound, they both used to play in a shoegaze band, shoegaze rock band. And when they disbanded, you know, Ken, I know he came from, he came from, I think he brought the metal textures in. He was and is still a huge fan of Dimmu Borgir, I know. They wrote demos through, you know, it was just those two exchanging demos for a long while Nikolai was doing his masters in, I think it was Sussex. No, it was in the UK. For a couple of years, and they just kept in touch, and the band as we know it today, the constellation of me and the others, like that is something that has happened through like the year before the debut album and until now. I think a lot of the things that Nikolai wanted to do, he actually got to with Diorama. So there's, I think essentially like the guitars is the main instrument. That is just the pivotal point of any Möll release, really. But I know that because of my musicianship, we have expanded a lot upon the vocal side of, you know, whatever goes on in that in that orchestration.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I kind of want to dive into the vocals as well, because as a vocalist myself, I listened to it. I was like, fuck, because like your highs are so like. I know it's like with like a lot of vocalists, when they go to the highs, like a lot of distortion comes in, but you can make out literally every single word, like you say throughout, like, and it goes with the the actual elements of the other album so perfectly. I kind of want to go into like, how did you get into starting off with your vocals, and then later on, like, what's like the biggest thing that you're proudest, like you're most proud of now? Like when you look back at when you started, what's like what was your biggest sort of learning point, in a way?
Well, I think I've been doing screaming for about little over 12, 15 years or something like that. And everything just started. I actually come from, death metal, melodic death metal, and later on hardcore, because I wanted to, do something else, try to expand upon something that brought more feeling into it. And I've always been a really huge fan of like cross genres when things mix up. I know one artist in particular, or at least a group or band that's no longer, here, but there's this was it? Can't remember if it was. I think it was Swedish. Yeah, called a band called Beneath Reach. It's an 2000 early 2000 album called Alleviate, and the vocalist on that record, he was the first vocalist that I heard that really did screaming in tones well. And that hit me as a teenager, and I was like, I need to do that. I just want to learn that technique, and I ended up seeing them live, supporting them in a later band, or a former band, and just trying to find out how did he do it. And it's so weird because I just entered the same studio with Tua Madsen, who recorded that album back in the day. So he had the same presets that Ilka, the vocalist, had at that point.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, you don't sound that far off from what he was doing. And I'm like, that's
the compliment you want to hear.
So I know that I draw a lot of differences, a lot of influences from the different kinds of music styles that I've tried to, experiment with. And it's always been about range, never been about intonation, and not that much about volume for me. I think as soon as I learned that it was not about volume, but if you can, strike the specific, tones or ways of emulating styles, and seamlessly transitioning into each other, that's something that I've just really felt as a healthy like challenge to myself. But on this record, Tua Madsen was actually the one who convinced me to do more clean parts.
Yeah, and I think that's like such a standout like sort of part in the album, like the cleans as well, because they complement your screaming. So and I'm also glad you kind of went into like, it's not about like volume, it's all about range and actually how nice this is, like how good they sound. Because I've had so many arguments with my band members about it's like, it's not really that loud. I'm like, it's not meant to be.
If you want to do a full hour,
so
and do that 30 times in a row, like, you just gotta take care of your instrument. They don't realize, maybe your bandmates don't realize that you use your instrument the whole fucking day.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I noticed because I have to talk for like a job as well. Like, I obviously do the podcast, but I'm also like an IT technician. So like, I get people calling me like all day. So there'll be times where I'll come in from work and I'm like, I come into like band practice from work and I'm there like, right, I'm not going to be as loud because it's like today's being like non-stop. And like everyone's like, oh no, a lot of people that aren't vocalists think you could just turn it on. You're like, no. Yeah, it's like whenever I tell people as well, oh, I'm a vocalist. Have you ever got that as well when someone goes, oh, we'll do it? And you're like, it's not that easy, mate. Like,
Preparation.
Well,
That's like my biggest pet peeve. Where it's like,
huh?
I said that's like one of my biggest pet peeve when someone says, "Oh, just do it." Then I'm like,
yeah,
it's not. I need to prepare. I need to get everything ready.
And at the same time, when you do raw vocals, like people will just have a laugh. Like, you know, it just doesn't sound that cool without, I think, a production around it, or at least I can make it sound terrifying, but you know, in the end, you'll just sound like some monster from a B movie.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's like when you hear it after production, like hearing the difference between raw vocals and like when it's actually being produced, it's like night and day. Because I remember listening to like I was never comfortable with my vocals until I heard like it actually produced by someone that knew what they were doing. I was like, they're all right actually, compared to like hearing raw. It's like
I think there's a difference between, you know, just hearing and knowing what your you know, what your actual instrument is doing, and knowing that I don't have to hear, I can actually feel what's going on. So you don't need to rely that much on, am I having enough monitor? Is this like that just freaks me. It freaked me out even more on this album because of you know, I've just felt so comfortable with my raw vocals and all of the rough stuff, but as soon as I got to sing, it's so naked. Like it's so that level of vulnerability that you display in your personal voice, how you sing, that is just so intimate in my experience. So wanting to do just as well for those parts was, you know, it's just pivotal. And in tour, he really talked me into it, because I was putting placeholders in our demos, and he was like, no, you do it. Like, what who's gonna do it? Like, you're talking about features, but you just did it, do it again. And I was like, okay.
It's one of those things where it's like, I feel like, like what you said though, like singing is so much more intimate than screaming in a way, because like the only people that's ever heard me really sing is my girlfriend. Like, you know, like if a song comes on, I'll just sing along to it. And I've had people go, oh, why are you do singing with your band? I was like, I'm not ready for that yet. And it's just one of those things. It's like, it's such a deep dive where you're like, I don't know if I want to take the plunge yet.
For me, I felt like, at least thematically, like I've gone deeper, or at least more personal on this one because of that. Not only just, you know, on the instrument side of things, but also on a personal note. Like Your was written out of a pretty, like I was burned out for half a year, and Møll actually ended up being that, you know, they're some of my best friends now, but they didn't know me back then. But they gave me the space to kind of, you know, let's write the album, you know, finished. Like Nikolai, he'd been working on those songs for like 5 years up until that point.
Oh wow.
So being let in on that and just given like the mantle, like, here, you know, do you, that is just such a, I'm still kind of terrified of how much trust they put into me to like produce something that feels just as real as what Nikolai is trying to express through his instrument. Like,
must have been truly like liberating for you.
Yeah, well, you know, he thinks a lot of other things when he's writing the music. I know writing is his way of expressing things that he can't say in words. And he might have thought something totally different when I put my words on top of it, and it turns into something else. And when you listen to it, you take those words, or at least those feelings, and, you know, you make it your own. And that's one of the most beautiful things I feel comes out of music.
Absolutely. I feel like you were like all very much in sync in the album. about the lyrical themes as well, what inspired that? What was going on, outside of the music? Like, what really drove the lyrical themes of this album for you?
Well, it was actually a continuation of what we started on your, because your was actually, that album was really much me trying to figure out how to deal with losing my sense of perspective, or at least meaning with a lot of things in my life. I used to be really firm and firm believer, but I kind of lost faith in that during that whole year, trying to wrap my head around, maybe I'm not going to heaven, maybe I'm just ending up in the ground. And that's one of the reasons why it's called just simply, that means earth. Like,
yeah,
I'm ending up there. I'm trying to reconcile my mixed emotions about, maybe there is not an eternity, maybe I'm just that tiny blip. So that was kind of the, I think that was the main framework for that was trying to wrap my head around. At that time I couldn't say I don't believe anymore. I tried to maintain some sense, but when I look back, I can see that was my way of, saying goodbye to a pretty big chunk of how I viewed the world.
Did you say that you went like full circle then? Did you go back to believing, or did you kind of stay in the same state that you were when you were writing?
Well, it gave me I think it gave me the courage to, accept that, I don't know if there's a God. I don't know if there's a meaning behind it all, but it kind of felt meaningless. And all the things that I've experienced throughout my youth, and as I've grown older, I've just seen how a lot of my heroes have failed me, and also when I try to be something that I'm not. I've been in bands and I've written music that I was so afraid of a judgment, or afraid of it was always with kind of an offset in Christianity, or in there had to be a hope somewhere. But this was the first band that I experienced that I could, the canvas is just blank, you can fill in whatever you want. And so your was first, that was, I think that was the external look, and Diorama was more of an introvert or an introspective look. When there's no meaning left, what do you end up with? We end up with each other, for better or for worse. And for my part, that meant, I end up with my family, and I end up with the people that I love, and people that I love and hate, and for better or for worse, I'll spend the rest of my life with these people who are really important to me, even though that we hurt each other, and we will continue to do that until we die. But also be something for each other. So that's what I ended up with. I've drawn a lot of inspirations from the movie by Ari Aster, Hereditary.
Oh yeah, I watched one of his other films last night. Actually, I think it's Midsummer. That was a pretty fucked up film, but yeah,
he's an amazing director.
Yeah, very good.
He's so amazing. Like everything he does, it's just
gold. Yeah.
So well, he's so well thought of, and I really like how he writes. His way of juxtapositioning people's really, really intimate feelings and something, otherworldly, something terrifying, a cosmic entity, a cosmic horror, something that you're not in control of, that just, you know, either molds you and makes you one of it, or you know, that was just something that spoke to me through his first movie there, Hereditary, because the lead character, I can't remember her name, but it was Courtney
it's
Cox.
the mother, isn't it? It's the mother.
Yeah. She, you know, she makes dioramas. She makes 3D representation, miniature models of the most traumatic events in her life. And instead of it being like a therapeutic tool, it actually ends up consuming her. And just, I think, or at least I think this album has been my way of making a diorama of, you know, life experiences that I'm trying to look on from different angles, and the feelings that are embedded in that, and trying not to get lost in that, but trying to, you know, this is the still, I'm gonna hold this up, I'm gonna look at it with you know, as neutral eyes as I can, to accept that, you know, things have happened, and you know, knowing that things have happened can make me as a person more ready to kind of more ready to accept a lot of stuff, to be able to move on, and to be able to, you know, become, I don't know if you ever become whole, but at least you get to grow.
Absolutely. It sounds like it's like an interesting development between the last album and the new, and then it seems like, you know, you go through the trauma in that, you know, that release, and then to the new one, it's sort of like you become content with the idea of all the things that you're feeling, even if it's, you know, obviously tough to digest. So I think that's really interesting, and you know, I like to hear more about the lyrical themes and how, you know, what you went through. And yeah, I think you've painted a really good canvas of, you know, you can tell from the emotional feels of the songs that it's real. It's not just put on as a show.
It's crazy as well, like that you said that, because I remember, so like whilst I was listening, so I was kind of like just taking notes to prep for the interview, and like one phrase that I got sort of thought of to describe it, the album, was beauty in darkness.
Yeah,
because that's what it kind of feels like. You're finding a beauty in that, because that's just what I sort of felt from it, because you've got these beautiful harmonic sections in all songs, but like you've got such crushing, like brutal, like dark themes, what feels like, and it's just a collide of them all. Mm-hmm. So when you said that, I was like, oh my god, that's what came through when I was listening anyway. It's just,
I agree,
finding beauty in the darkest of times, really.
That's at least what it conjures in my mind when I listen to Nikolai's melodies. Like, in many ways, I feel like his biggest fan, because like I get to put a lot of, you know, a lot of stuff on top of his really amazing way of composing songs. But I've come to realize that I'm just as much a part of it that as he is, but still it kind of feels like I'm contributing to someone else's, like, you know, grand vision. But I think it's just become more and more clear as the years gone by that you know, it's a mutual relationship, and what we do is something that we do together. We kind of can't do it without each other. So I'm really also, I can't stress enough that, you know, I'm an instrument just as much as the others are. And that's one of the things that I really love about Møl's music. It's I've played in loads of other bands, technical death metal and stuff like that, but this is the first band that I've really felt like I'm not greater than the parts. Like, I'm the vocalist is not the front man. Like, even though that I know that I have a personality, and I use that to my advantage in live situations, I feel just as much on par with the other instruments, and feel that we orchestrate and don't take up, don't outstay our welcome. That's the thing about a lot of music. You can again get kind of oversaturated, and you can hear if somebody are trying to really show off or do something that's their moment. But I don't know, there might be opinions about that, but I really feel that it kind of steals from the experience of something when you can hear somebody trying to overdo something. But I really feel that having things in the right amount and not outstaying your welcome, that's pretty essential for building a great emotional narrative, but also an album that doesn't outstays his welcome.
That's pretty humble, I think.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the best parts about like being in the band, that when you really like click with your band members, it gets to the point where you realize, we're all trying to work on the same thing, we're all trying to achieve the same thing. Let's just not, like, you don't want to one up the other person, you don't want to one up the other person. You might argue during the writing process and stuff like that, but
that always happens.
You always become like really, really good. I always said to like my band members that like, I was like, I feel like I'm married to each one of you because I argue just as much as a married couple we is.
Yeah.
But like I feel like if yous weren't there, I'd be in such a worse place. Like,
yeah,
that's like the best. You all become best friends, and when you actually all write music together, that's like always the best part about it. It's the writing process. The release is kind of like, I always found like after the release, you're like, what's next? What's next? Because it's the writing process is the best bit.
I disagree.
Yeah.
But mostly on the writing stuff, I really just want to go out and play this stuff live. Like I to understand one of my absolute idols. I've been so fortunate to just share stage with him a couple of times, but with Josh Gogan from The Chariot, like he's one of my big heroes, and that level of intensity and presence that he can invoke in a crowd, I feel so much of that. I don't know if you can call it, I wouldn't necessarily call it a rush, but just a sense of being. I think that's what happens when I play live. Like, I just mentioned we had our pre-release show, and it was a pretty stressful day. But when we got up on stage and the first tone hit, like, it doesn't matter. Like, fuck that day. We're here now, and it's I think that's the dragon that we're chasing throughout, both writing and performing, like, just that sense of equilibrium, not something more, not something less, just that state of being, and it's fleeting. And the next day you're standing at the laundry waiting for the washer to be finished, and that's also a part of life. But I think those moments when I feel alive when I'm playing live. I often feel terrible when we're writing. I don't know why that is, but it might just be a phase.
It's like, it's different for me because it's like I've not had the chance to be on stage yet. We start like, because the band I'm in at the moment, we started just before COVID, and like I started doing like vocals from like 17 to like 17, and then as soon as I got to like 20, that's when I was like, I think I'm ready to be in a band. Finally got a band together, and then COVID happened. But like the EP that we've been writing essentially for like 2 years now. So we're there like, we need to get this done. Because I've got that feeling I want to be on stage, but I've also got this overarching like anxiety of being on stage. Which they're like, I don't know, I'm scared, but it's one of those things where like I'm just love being around the guys and writing. That I think that's why I find it more fun. Because it's just like when we're all in the same room, that
but
feeling
fear is a part of the mix. It's an essential part.
I know that's the thing. Like, I feel like it's the same feeling that makes me want to go up there.
If you don't fear, there's nothing on the line.
Sure. Yeah, like I genuinely think it's just the same feeling where I'm like scared, but also like so unrealistically like excited that I just want to be on there. But then it's just this weird mix.
I'm looking forward to your first show.
Well, that's the thing. Like I said to him, like I want to get it all booked, and like because I think we've got quite a good amount of material to work with. So I just feel like when I was saying to everyone like, oh, when we finally do get up there, I feel like I'm gonna want to get back on like straight away.
Please send me a link to your music.
Oh yeah, I definitely will. The current song that we've got to admit, the stuff that we're writing in a minute is much better. The song that we've got out at the moment is just like,
we all feel like that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like I look back on it and going, I'd change like a million things about that.
Yeah. see that's the thing about when you write something and you feel it's too old for you. Like I felt like that with particularly like with some of my old bands. I'm really happy for the guys. I used to play in a band called Rosalind, and I wrote all the lyrics for that, but it took us so many years to just, get our acts together and get things recorded and stuff like that. So I had demos that was spanning over like 3-4 years pending. And I think in total it was, they recently released and with a lot of the lyrics that I've written. And it's so weird to look at it right now, because I know I wrote that in a very, very specific time of my life. And I wrote You're just after. So I know what state of mind I was in. But I'm still pretty proud of what I did at that point. I just know I was just a different person. Especially because at that point, I could just see myself saying, you have to, you need to. There's a lot of going somewhere instead of describing what is happening right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to be honest, I'm not a musician, so I can't really relate to that side, but I can relate to being a creative person, like, trying to struggle to get stuff right. Because, I did a short film when I left university, and that was like 2018. So there's a good space of time when I didn't really do anything. I was always sort of pushing down on myself, like, oh, this is not good. There's no point writing because it's not going to be either better than the last thing I did or other things that I see other people doing around me. But then, like recently, me and Nathan started to do, some photography and videography together. And there's one of our friends that wanted a music video doing. So I just thought, let's just go for it. And I was like, stressing about the planning in my head, what shot's going to be where. And then he was like, listen, just go with the flow, do what you think. And that like really helped to inspire that sort of nostalgic creativity within inside me, because I feel like I've lost that over the years of thinking that everything needs to be like this or like that, because that's what I see other people doing. And this felt like I could just roll with it and do what I enjoy to do and see what feels right. And I ended up creating a much better product because of that.
That fear that, that really describes the feeling of just letting go of trying to, control everything. I think there's certain amounts of things that you can control, but I also feel that at the moment where we're, ready to release in just a few days, like, it's just out of our hands. And that's kind of beautiful. Like, you have to accept things for what they are. At least I know we all went to the studio and were like, with something we have something that we can, put our name to, and not say like, yeah, it's all right, but like, we did our best. And in a sense, just accepting the flaws for what they are, if they are flaws. I think you can feel that as well in the production. Like, it's really organic and really a warm sound that Tua Madsen has helped create. Like, we just wanted it to feel so,
natural,
warm, intense, and organic in some sense. Like, it's this record is way more noisy than your is. Like, it's just vibrating, emanating. Like, it's just that is, and that's the kind of feeling that I have when going through those elements, like from the earth on into yourself. Like, there's just something both painful but also really I don't know if you could, it's kind of heartfelt. It has to hurt in some sense. And now I'm speaking in pictures again.
no, I remember when I listened to it, I think it is easily like my favorite album of the year, because it was one of the only albums. Oh yeah, it was one of the only albums I listened to back 4 times, because it was just like, I was like listening to it going, this is so well thought out, this is so well made. I was like, everything, I literally loved everything about it from start to finish. Like, whilst Brad was away whilst like we got sent it, so I was there like, Brad, whatever you're doing, just drop it now and listen.
This is the thing as well. Like, Nathan doesn't get excited about metal albums as much anymore, because he feels like there's not really many interesting albums coming out as much as they used to be, and he's definitely much more into his hardcore. So I was there just having a cocktail. I was in Spain at the time, so I was just like chilling out, and he's just like, Brad, you need to listen to this album. Like, this is like really something else. And I was like, okay. As soon as I get back, I was like, oh my god, you're totally right. Like, it hit just totally different and much more experimental, much more raw, and I think it encapsulates a lot about the black metal style as well, of just being unapologetically raw, with so many other influences put in. Like, it shows that you guys aren't afraid to push the boundaries of musicianship, as you'd know, in metal, which is something that I feel like a lot of bands are afraid to do nowadays.
I'd rather have art than me.
Yeah. Well, it made me rethink my entire writing process. Like, I remember going into band practice the day after, going, guys, right, what we're doing is just wrong. We need to fucking strip it down, look back at it. I said, we need to aim for something bigger. Like, because I listened to it, and it was just so, like, genuinely, I like what Brad said. I don't really get as excited for like new albums anymore. The main reason is because, like, I find like a lot of people now, they found a comfort zone and they stay in it. Like, there's very few bands that really make me excited for a release now. And like, when I listened to it, it genuinely made me excited for, like, it gave me like, like the feeling that you get when you first listen to metal. It gave me that feeling again, where I was there like, this has made me excited. I was there like, this is incredible. So I gotta thank you for giving me that feeling, because it's so well made.
Thank you.
Honestly, really, it's just one of those things. Was like, after a while, I've listened to like everything I like, and that was one of the only things I was like, listen to. I'm like, this is genuinely so unique and different that, like, why can't more bands just step out their comfort zone and do something that really makes them feel vulnerable, but it comes across in the music, and it makes the music better by doing that.
Yeah.
So it was.
I can't
wait
for people to
fantastic.
hear it. To be honest, it's gonna be cool.
Yeah. So on sort of like a different note, I got to ask you, because I'm a photographer myself, and I did notice that you do a bit of photography, and this is always like a good question to ask, like, fellow photographers. What's your favorite thing to shoot and why?
Well, I recently did some artwork shoot, so it's like I've done a couple of like jobs where I've worked with bands that wanted to create something, or at least trusted my style and wanted me to, be kind of in charge of their thematical universe in some sense, or at least try to color that with whatever I'm going. I'm really happy about glitching stuff out and just doing something that's kind of meta photography, like just really pushing something and, knowing the rules and breaking them, putting up frames and trying to, go out of the frame, do something else with it. So like, I think I have a thing for flowers, but honestly, like I always do a lot of stuff just experimenting and not, there's something really amazing happening when I'm alone and I get time to go and look and find stuff, when I take photos of something that just catches my eye. But at the same time, I also do like I've done all of our press photos, selfie mode, like getting all the fucking guys to stand fucking still, and I'm just like, we're taking this photo. No,
was that the hardest bit of the process of the?
Well, there's always
album?
cats and bicyclists and pedestrians working by, and you're trying to keep your guys focused and really like straight faced. So luckily, we've always picked woods that are really overrun when we're doing shoots. So like I always get the task of the social worker when trying to manage the crazy gang. But that's also one of the reasons why, some things I do that out of joy, but also something is just, content creation. That's how you are an artist today. If you can't control and make content, and you have to have people do a lot of stuff for you, there's just we've gotten so much power back into our hands as creators in some sense, but at the same time there's also a lot of control, so, and different things. But luckily I think people are used to things, knowing what the rules are, so it's more interesting to do something that kind of breaks that. And that's one of the reasons why I like glitching and photo manipulation. So like portraits, but I think portraits might be the thing that entices me the most, because it's so much back and forth, and you have to use your social skills to kind of get that particular look out of somebody, like, or make them feel comfortable or uncomfortable, depending on what you want out of it. So that's, as a photographer, that's one of the things that I like. But usually nowadays, what I want to do is stuff with no faces, like people with no faces. I don't know what's about that, but yeah.
I love doing portraits.
Me too
as well. Like that's like easily like the one that I have the most fun with. Like I did one with my friend Carl recently for his like for his EP cover. Actually, he sent me the one that he picked. I was like, that's my favorite one too. But yeah, he asked me to do it, and it was like one of those things where it's like the one, like sort of the music video, there wasn't really much of a plan. It was just like, look, let's just go with it. And I've always had kind of a fuck it, let's do it mentality. Yeah. So we just got on with it, and like easily some of the best photos I've ever taken. Like, because I was looking at them, like they're one of the only photos I've looked at, been like, oh, yeah,
you did that. Yeah,
I'm happy with that. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Like, just edited it a little bit, sent it off. I'm like, there we go. I'm done with that. I'm not. There's nothing I'd change there.
Have you done weddings?
We'd like to, wouldn't we?
Tempted. Yeah, like we were saying, because obviously we started the photography and videography business. Kind of want to do a wedding, but it sounds like so much stress.
Well, that's the thing. Until you just do your first one, then you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm a wedding photographer now. That's it's been like that with me. Like I've just had assignments assigned to me. They see me doing some stuff, and then I go try it out, and fast forward a couple of years later now, like I know what I want, but I also see that I can use it as a business opportunity. But at the same time, also what I like is fine art. Like I really adore that, but also fine art coming out of something that maybe not necessarily supposed to be fine art. So it's just there's a lot of stuff going on when I can't express something in words, making pictures or doodling, because that's what I do. Like you all have a smartphone, and it's an amazing device. Like you can do so much editing on that, and sometimes I feel really ashamed of how much I spend time in different apps, because I feel like Photoshop is the place where I should be doing it, but I just do so much stuff on the phone.
Yeah, I feel that so much. Like, yeah, it's hard because we live in like a day and age now where it's so easy to get distracted by things. You want to focus on doing something creative, and then something will pop up. Oh, there's a new YouTube video. Oh, there's a new TikTok or something like that. Like it's very easy to get swept in on that.
But slowing down is really important in that way, and that's one of the reasons why I would say print your work.
Well, that's why I got into film photography. Because I loved how slow the process was. Like I'd go out, I still got a roll of like film in my camera that's still not finished, just because it's like I'm only going to take photo because there's only 36 shots and it's expensive as fuck to buy it. So I'm like, I'm just going to take a photo so I actually want to take a photo of, and then when I do take that photo and it's the roll's finished, obviously winding it and then sending it off, getting it developed. Like it's like a phone, like almost. I've had that roll in for a month now. It's like it's such a nice slow experience, and I get them back and I'm like, yeah. I don't even remember taking that one, but yeah, I like that.
I've had multiple burnouts because I'm just such an idiot. But it's. I think during those moments where I was like on a sick leave or stuff like that, that's always when I went back to like film roll and old school photography. But I think I have a fascination for like really, really old lenses. Do you now it's getting nerdy. I'm gonna pick something up 2 seconds. Okay.
Oh yeah, Nathan's gonna love this.
when I bought my first camera, it was after I had used, I think, 5 friends' cameras. Like I've just borrowed them for a really long time. I'm trying to decide between Canon or Nikon and what do I want to go with, but then I found out that Sony released the Alpha series, so and there was E-mount is just so easy to convert, so that's one of the reasons why I love playing with these, because it's just so easy to, and a great marriage between old and new.
Yeah,
you get that feel of like manual photography or manual focusing, and then in a body with focus peaking. That's just, so I think that was when I finally decided to buy something. It was just mirrorless, and
I went mirrorless as well. It's good because I work in a camera store, so I'm like a technician, so I get to play with cameras all day long. So yeah, when I got my news camera,
really envious.
It was fun, to be fair. And like, a lot of the Sony ranges are just amazing. They're really dominating the market at the moment. I personally got a Panasonic though, just because they're really good for video and they've got good slow-mo and fast motion sort of features on there. But yeah, again, I'm getting too nerdy now. But yeah,
I'm gonna get like a little bit nerdy now because I'm gonna show off my coolest camera. Just because of the history on it.
Just do it.
So I got given an old Soviet camera.
Yeah.
That came with I think it's a, old Helios lens.
That is my favorite lens.
Yeah. So like,
yeah, it's right over here. Yeah, but
is the focusing on yours like really heavy? Like that's what I kind of like about it. It's like you got to really give it some.
You got you got one of the alternative models.
Mhm.
The ones that I got is actually without. Is it stopless yours?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same thing with mine, but that bokeh action, man. It's so amazing.
I haven't had a chance to shoot it yet, but like I got given it.
Yeah. Just take that baby really off and put it on a modern camera and then see what wonders it does. Like if you go on my Instagram account, you'll see just see I've shot so much with Helios 45. Like it's
when he will give him to me by a work friend because he found out I liked film cameras and he bought like a bunch of Zeniths for like £30 and it had this lens. And like I remember like when he gave me it, I'm like, I've been looking at this lens for quite a while. So I ended up getting it for free. It even says made in the USSR on the bottom.
Yeah. And those, those Russian lenses, they were like a default, like a faulty in their production with that swirly bokeh, but it just does something really eye-popping to the photos.
I think I'm gonna shoot black and white with it first because I feel like I've seen sample photos and this lens really does shine with black and white, I think. So yeah, I'm very excited. But yeah, I thought I'd show off my little
totally there. Well, I think I this is my favorite lens. It's the I think it's Minolta, MD Rocore 50mm 1.2, and it's just really
that's nice.
The bokeh is just so good. It's been through hell. Like I've had it with me everywhere on tours and stuff. So like it's just I'm really happy to find fellow photography geeks out there.
And don't expect to still be all geeking out over cameras. I'm not complaining really.
Yeah, I kind of got it. Film photography made me really fall back into photography because before I used to do gig photography all the time, and then like
me too.
I found I started to like kind of hate it a little bit because I couldn't enjoy the bands. Yeah. So like I was like I'd always be like, oh, yeah, but that photo's better. So it got to a stage where I was like, stop bringing my camera with me, and just kind of fell off with photography, and then got my film cameras, and I was like, I feel.
I think it's okay to try things out. That's what I did, but I also burned my hands a couple of times trying to, that's my main problem is actually, everything that I start doing for fun actually ends up becoming work because I'm a perfectionist and I get good at stuff. So like a jack of trades and master of none, right? But so finding enjoyment in something and knowing that I don't usually have to make a profit or be productive with it. I think that was the biggest mental hurdle for me.
I agree.
I think music is the one thing that I feel that I can turn to, even though when things are like too stressful and stuff like that. But photography was also something that just, I became burnout of that and had to kind of find another way around doing it until I could enjoy it again.
Absolutely.
So don't wear out your passions. It's really important.
Yeah, this is like a massive thing for me because, obviously I finished uni. This is what I want to do. Like I do want to become a professional videographer or editor or something like that along the lines. And for so long, I was just like thinking about the business side of things that I've lost the fact that it's actually my passion and something that I like to do as a hobby. So I've been trying to rekindle that recently. And just if I'm going to do a shoot, just remember, I enjoy this. This is what I do. And I think the podcast has helped as well for me to sort of rekindle that enjoyment, But you've always got to remember that, like I said, things are a passion. Like don't always think about how you're going to monetize it and, how are you going to make a business out of it.
It is a concern, but like, I feel also like as a musician, I am in a very precarious situation. Like it's not something that we can finance like our whole lives with, and we all have different kinds of we come from different walks in life. People have kids and stuff like that. So what we have found out as a band is like really, fine tuning our focus on what gives us energy. For instance, like one of the reasons why I like doing interviews is because I really like talking to people. But I'm in a band with 4 other introverts, and so that's one of the reasons why I end up doing a lot of the interviews. But that gives me energy in some sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I feel like talking to people just like I think because we started doing interviews during the pandemic, it wasn't like planned or anything. Our first interview kind of came in like January sort of time, and then like obviously pandemic hit, and we started getting a lot more interviews. And what we found was I remember like speaking to people at work, and like they're like, oh, it's been really lonely, not being able to speak to people. I'm like, oh, I don't know about you, but I might be speaking to like a new person each week, and I fucking love it. Like it was just one of those things that kind of kept me going. And even now we're sort of seeing like the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm like, I really just love sitting down with like, especially like from having like a musician background myself and geeking out over the stuff. Like if I talk to my friends about it, sometimes they're like, yeah, but I don't get it. If I might having a rant about it, it's taking us like 5 times, like took me like 20 times to do one vocal line. They're like, I don't get it. Like, why can't you just be happy with the first one? I'm like, but until I speak to like someone else that's been through the same experience, I'm like, they fucking get it.
Yeah. And I think like it's been a very interesting experience, and we got to speak to so many amazing people. And one thing that we love to do is just sort of like, speak to people and get to know the person behind the music, and, not just ask questions about the music, but just what they like to do. Like, the fact that you talked about your cameras, and like, oh, see what I mean? Like, that's something I've always wondered. Like, I wonder what these bands do when they're not playing music, or I wonder what their interests are. And I think finding out that is always an interesting sort of cycle for us.
My line of work, like my education, I studied social work, so I work with teenagers and youngsters like on a daily basis. That's actually what my main occupation is. And that's one of the reasons why I in some sense I really like that work, because it keeps me grounded. I have to relate to people, and I have to talk to teenagers who are like at they always feel like it's the most important years of their lives, and in some sense they are, because they're like really defining years, especially when you're going through a hard time. So having a grown-up that's not your parent, where you can talk to them about stuff and also geek out. Like I love video games. But like I feel that when I go to work at this youth club, like I bring my VR headset and I play with them, or they get, it's just nice. I obviously I'm doing my job in kind of, making sure that they are okay and talking to them about their problems in their lives. But the way that I get to talk to them is showing a genuine interest in what their world looks like, and having some of the same cool hobbies. You don't know how, or I imagine you can imagine what it would be like for a teenager to know that the same guy that's working there really likes Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. So it's just a waterfall of things they've seen, and I really enjoy that.
I guess the issue with I wish parents, I had like the issue of parents or something sometimes is like, there's difference between like empathy and sympathy. Like, a lot of the times they might, try and go on the apologetic route of, oh, I'm sorry about all this that's happened and stuff like that. But then if someone goes in with a bit more empathy instead, and, tries to relate to them and, helps them through and let them know, like, I'm not appearing here while you appear here. It's appearing on the same level, so you sort of connect a lot easier. So I think that's pretty cool.
I like that day job, but when I'm done with people, I end up diving into photography and macro photography and stuff like that, and just doing doodling. And when I feel that's too lonely, I end up writing music. So it's kind of like hobbies that gives plus occupations that fills out a lot of needs, I think. Knowing that it is something that can kind of complement whatever state you're in and keep you energized, or take you down to a level where you are actually able to think and not just react to things.
Of course.
Oh, definitely. I find like doing stuff like that makes you a lot more measured in your day-to-day, because it's like otherwise a lot of people kind of act on impulse. Like I know a lot of people that don't really do hobbies that energize them, and like you can see there's a strict difference between people that do and people that don't, because I find I don't get as stressed anymore. Like I don't really stress about things. Like if it's been a really bad week, I will, but I find like I'm there like it'll work out. I mean, like it's just one of those things where it's like I think doing stuff like that, it kind of, you just realize some things are in your control. So you just, why let it bother you? So that's what I end up doing.
Knowing what's in your range of control and what's not, and also keeping the door open to like great friends as Bradley you have here. Like it's really good to have that kind of space, and I feel like our generation kind of caught that in another way that my parents' generation didn't.
For sure.
Or at least because one of the things that I discuss a lot with my father about is still, how do we talk about feelings? Like, how do you do that in a way that you're not, either totally revealing everything about your inner self, and also, not just being like a clam, not saying anything like at all, and just so that's an ongoing conversation I have with my dad, at least, because he said like he never had that kind of relationship with his father. So you kind of need people to like show you that way, and that way I found out through like really good friends, their parents in some sense, and it's just amazing to experience that with your own parent at a later point when you're older and know what they might have went through.
Definitely. I feel like Brad's a qualified therapist at this point sometimes. Like I'll message him going, I've had a really bad day. He's like, tell me about it. We'll do it all the time, where if he's stressed, like he'll sometimes call me and go, you never fucking guess what happened. And like, he'll just reel it off. He goes, I feel better now. I'll do the same to him. I'll just send him like a text being like a massive list of shit. He's like, oh no, it's okay. You're just blowing out of proportion. And I think a lot of people really do benefit from that. Whereas like, I feel like if I didn't have like as good enough friends where I feel like comfortable just going, yeah, I feel like this, then I feel like I'd probably just clam it all up and put it in that shelf that I feel like every guy kind of has, where they just like put it just there and just forget about it.
It's good to good to bring it out and just like share it, vent it, and I feel like you feel a lot more refreshed in yourself. Like when you Dutch store it, there's no weight on your shoulders anymore. So I think it's definitely important. It's good to see that like this generation is bringing it out a bit more. And I hope that it continues to progress, because it's a good thing.
Well, I think that a lot, especially like I just recently got engaged to my fiance. And
congratulations.
Or recently, like this summer. And I feel like there's a lot of things kind of following along the lines with the things that I've had to write, or at least felt I had to write in the lyrics of this album, and leads me to where I am in my life. Like it's a sort of a journal. Like I feel music is, or at least for me, I can't, do music without kind of talking, telling a story about myself in some sense. So it's just really nice to know that I've used this creative option to kind of explore other things that I know benefits my partner as well. Like she understands a lot of things of what's happening in my life, because she knows how that looks, on put into words or into something that she knows exactly what I'm talking about. You might not know it, but she knows what I'm insinuating, and my parents or people who are like connected to my experience of those lyrics. I've showed it to family members, and it's kind of really, it felt kind of relieving to show that, how I processed a lot of the experiences that we've had, and that actually ended up helping our conversation, because I put it into a song. So I feel like this, like the words is not just for myself, it's actually also for people in my family.
Sure. And you've done a great album, and just I'd like to see all the stuff that you've done with it. One way that we always like to leave the interview is, what advice would you give to your younger self, and what advice would you give to a young musician just starting out? What would be your leaving wisdom?
I think to myself, it would be something about not stressing too much, but because that's what I always do. Like feeling that everything is critical and everything is important, and that you are important. I don't think that as much anymore. We all feel like we're the center of our lives, but we actually aren't. At least that's one of the, and that used to feel like a burden, but now it really feels like something that's relieving, that I am not the center in my life. I have people who depend on me, and I have people who are important to me. But that doesn't mean that I'm nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that I don't deserve stuff, or at least to take care of myself in a way. So that's what I would say to my younger self. Absolutely. And for young musicians out there, like work hard. It pays off, at least. But I think the main motivation has to be, it has to come from you, and what you do want to do with what you want to do with your music or with your art. It's just so pivotal that you do it for your own reasons. And the other thing is, make the people who love you care about what you do, because if they don't care, you can end up, and you want to go on tour, but you've only talking to the guys about it, and then you end up not having your family being as supportive and the best fans that you could get is actually your loved ones. And I think it's just really important not to forget who you're sharing your life with, especially when you want to do something creative and something that requires you to travel distances away from the people that you love.
So that's a very humbling way to finish the interview. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a very insightful conversation. Very interesting. Like, we've learned so much about the album, even though more than how fucking amazing it was anyway. But it's just created like this other layer onto it now. So, when we look back on it now and we listen to it again, we're like, oh yeah, I remember that bit. But also just fun just to geek out of you with cameras, because me and Nathan could talk about cameras for ages. We could probably do a separate podcast in itself, just talking about lenses and cameras and portraits. No, it's been amazing, and I really can't wait to see you guys live sometime and experience what the live show's like.
Where are you at the moment? Where do you live?
Leeds.
Well, Leeds.
or we should see each other in February then.
Hey, that's definitely sounds like a plan. Definitely.
Yeah, you guys are doing a tour, are you? You're doing Manchester?
I think so. Yeah, we're doing Satan's Hollow.
Oh, I love that place.
It's a great place. It is a great
It's
place.
the most wicked place ever. Like,
so
I've
cool.
never been so afraid and also very enticed at the same time. Like it's so amazing. So yep.
Can't say we'll be there.
We'll be there.
I'm looking forward to talking to you again at that point.
Oh yeah.
Oh
definitely.
yeah. We'll get
you
a
know
beer
what?
with you.
We haven't like actually met a lot of the bands we've interviewed so far in person. So we're actually really excited for the tours to come in, so we can actually like message everyone and be like, "Yo, we know you're in this city. We'll come in."
Let's make it happen.
Yeah, we'll
definitely down.
Have a shot and we'll talk about cameras.
Yep, I'm gonna bring mine.
I'll bring mine.
Compare.
All right.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kin. We'll see you in February, and
time.
take care.